I now recognize the gentleman from the state whose name I guess means friendly in one of the native languages, and obviously the Lone Star State. Mr. Gonzales, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman, and Pete, great to see you here. You've done a great job as Commissioner. Thank you and the men and women that work underneath you, alongside you for everything that you're doing. I want to start with, my district. I've got 4 sectors in it. I've got a small piece of Laredo, Del Rio sector, Big Bend sector, and El Paso sector, and each one is completely different than the next. Let's start with the El Paso sector. I want to bring to your, I'm not too sure, I want to bring to your attention that at Fort Hancock, the port of entry at Fort Hancock, the hours have been reduced due to COVID-19, and they never got returned. I mean, COVID was 5 years ago, and the hours are still limited because of that. So my question is, are there any plans? And I understand staffing, and you're trying to navigate it all, but it is seriously a safety issue for the residents in Hudspeth County that rely on that port of entry to make their way to Mexico back and forth. Do you have any plans to reevaluate our land port of entries that currently operate under reduced hours, specifically pre-COVID hours?
So Congress, thank you for the question. Good to see you again. Absolutely. So we do a continuous evaluation of what our operational tempo is and what our hours are at all their locations that we do, the 328 ports of entry that we have. So we want to make sure from an operation tempo that we're meeting the demand of what's happening at our ports of entry. So we do that evaluation, and we consistently reevaluate whether or not the hours meet the demand and needs on what we have. What we do recognize is that based on limited staffing and resources, that we have to put our staffing to where the need is, and then scale down operations as best as possible in order to ensure that we're taking care of needs across the board, but ensuring that staff is dedicated to primary locations where we're seeing the need for increased staffing. But we do reevaluate consistently on what port hours should be.
Sure. I'd ask you to take a look at the Fort Hancock port of entry. Hudspeth County often gets forgotten for a lot of different reasons, and that is an important issue for me. I want to talk about Stone Garden. Stone Garden, I think, is a program that has been very successful. For those of us who voted for the CR last year, we were able to get a variety of different amounts in. I know El Paso County was able to get 3.7 million, but there's a disparity in some of the grant awardees, right? Other parts of my district, Frio County got 165K, LaSalle County got 186K. All grateful, all good stuff. But as you're going through this as we're working through the reconciliation process on the Homeland Authorization side, we put 450. Hopefully it stays, but we put 450 million in there over a 5-year period. I would just ask that you kind of evaluate, make sure that it's going to some of these areas, because in many cases it's these smaller counties that are still getting hit, and that leads me, actually, before I go into that part, I'd also like to hear your thoughts on, a lot of times that's used for overtime, but equipment is one of the basic necessities, communicating. And in many parts of my district, you just cannot communicate with others. What are your thoughts on trying to expand the Stone Garden program to maybe just radios or having some things like that? Just love to get your thoughts on the communication piece to just the problems that along the border.
Congress, thanks for the question. Agree from a Stone Garden, I'll start with Stone Garden perspective there, that it's an important aspect of what we do with being able to work law enforcement issues with our state and locals in the county. As we know, like some of you, born and raised in a small border town in Calexico, California. So understand the need of how small some of the law enforcement is and the support needed, and the ability to communicate becomes essential, like in most situations, or regular routine and emergency situations. So what we can do in regards to the request, in regards to Stone Garden, we will look into what that looks like in regards to equipment and communication and what that is. A lot of those requests that they come in are based on the agency themselves, right? The state and local agencies themselves putting in their operational order on the needs and kind of what what the cooperation will be on that, on how we meet those needs under Stone Garden.
Well, I'd love to continue to work together with you on modernizing the program. We just can't write blank checks and think it's going to solve itself. Like, how do we make sure that those funds our taxpayer dollars are going down to meet the need? And sometimes it's not personnel. Sometimes it is equipment like communications. My last question is on the Big Bend sector. I mean, we talk about these other sectors get a lot of attention, but the Big Bend sector, in my eyes, is an area that hasn't slowed down, that continues to have a lot of foot traffic on a daily basis. You know, a lot of people are traveling through the desert on that area. In that area in particular, once again, it's not an easy place to get to, and I understand the population is low, but from a Big Bend sector, is there anything that we can do to help, some of the local communities? What I'm hearing from my ranchers is just, they have, like, for everyone else, they've gotten relief. That area continues to be a hotbed, just in the Big Bend sector in particular. Is there anything that we can do to maybe alleviate some of their high foot traffic?
Thank you for the questions, Congressman. We continue to look at our high traffic areas and reevaluate that. With the support that we're getting, being able to put agents back to do law enforcement work, the ingestion of technology that we have and refocusing some of that technology with the help of DOD and the technology, the help of DOD personnel on the border to help close off some of those areas are all areas that we're focusing on. So we continue to plan for where we see problem spots or hot areas along the border, and we continue to reevaluate how we're deploying our agents, how we're working with DOD to deploy their personnel, and then what our coverage is in the air in regards to bring visibility to those problem areas. We'll continue to work towards 100% situational awareness, and that's our plan right now, to get to that 100% situational awareness so we can ensure that we know what's coming across the border. And then ultimately, in ensuring that we know what's coming across the border, being able to effect an enforcement action on that. The enforcement and deterrence piece on the consequences seems to have a good deterrence in alleviating some of those hot spots.
Right. Well, thank you, Commissioner, for your testimony today. Look forward to continuing to work together. And Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. The gentlelady from high altitude Texas, which we may be the two highest altitude residents